Hey, what's going on everyone? It is Dennis here. Welcome back to the channel. So are you looking for a gimbal for your GoPro or other action camera? I think I might have one for you, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. But first, run the clip! Hey, so welcome back everyone. I hope you enjoyed that little montage of clips I put together. We'll actually talk about those in a little bit. But today's video is very, very important to me because this is the very first time that a company has actually reached out to me and asked me to test out and review one of their products. Enter this little bad boy. Now this is the Inkee Falcon Gimbal. This is a gimbal made specifically for action cameras. Now I have the GoPro Hero 9 currently on there, but you don't have to use this camera. You can actually load up the GoPro Hero 5, 6, 7, 8, or the 9. You can also load up the DJI Osmo Action, also the Sony RX0, as well as the Insta360 One R, and a variety of other action cameras. So a big thank you goes out to the good people over at Inkee. Thank you so much for sending out the gimbal for me to test out and review. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. So full disclosure, Inkee did send me this unit to test out and review. They are not paying me in any way, shape, or form to say that this is the best, this is the greatest, this is awesome. They are allowing me to do a full test and an unbiased, honest review. So that's what I'm gonna give to you. I'm gonna give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, if there is any. But yeah, let's get into it. Now, all of these shots in that opening sequence were actually all shot with the GoPro Hero 9 along with the Falcon Gimbal. And I have to say, I was really impressed with how this thing performed. So real quick, let's go over some features of the Inkee Falcon Gimbal. So it's a 3-axis stabilizer. It features a front trigger that allows you to go into selfie mode. Hey, what's up? It features a joystick that allows you to control the gimbal's axes. It features a shutter button, a record button, and also a time-lapse button. Now you can actually control your GoPro with these buttons. You just have to sync the Bluetooth of the gimbal to the GoPro. I'll show you how to do that later. The gimbal has a built-in battery that lasts for approximately 9 hours and can be charged via USB-C. The Inkee Falcon Gimbal features 7 different mode functions, including pan follow, pan tilt follow, full follow or POV, full lock mode, selfie mode. Hey, what's up everyone? I'm vlogging. Vertical mode for all you Instagrammers, and also my favorite, Inception mode. The Inkee Falcon Gimbal does not have a screen, but it does have these little LED lights that tells you what mode you're in. All right, so before we go any further, I want to do a quick unboxing. Now this is the box, front and back. So let's open this up. Owner's manual, instructions, little bag of stuff. So we have a charging cable. We have a GoPro style thumb screw, 2 hex wrenches, and then a hex bolt. Not sure what this is for, but that's it. That was in the bag. You get a tripod, which is really, really cool. Let's take the gimbal out. Ugh. Pretty small, very compact. This is really cool that they include the tripod. A lot of companies out there will actually charge you extra for the tripod, which is kind of ridiculous, but this is kind of essential for while you're shooting. If you want to set your gimbal and your camera down without having to power everything off and then laying it down, you just open up the tripod and then set it down on the table. Really awesome that they include this. So this is the Inkee Falcon. It's fairly small and actually fits in your pocket, and no lie, I'll show some footage of me actually throwing this in my pocket with the GoPro attached. It feels like the body, the grip part, is plastic, and then the arms and the motor housings and also the mount, this feels like it's aluminum. I've never seen this before, but these little tools, the hex wrench that's included, allows you to make modifications to balance your gimbal. So you can see there's some there that are adjusting the up and down axis of this, and also here to adjust the side to side of this placement. This one actually allows you to just take out the legs of your GoPro, or if you're using an older GoPro, the frame, but you're able to just take the legs, the feet, whatever you want to call these. It allows you to just slide them into the gimbal. Take the included thumb screw and just screw it on in. Obviously, you'd want to make the adjustments with the included tool to balance it. And in case all of you vloggers out there are wondering, unfortunately, no, you cannot mount the GoPro Hero 9 with the media mod on the Inkee Falcon gimbal. It's just too big. As you can see in the footage here, I tried to adjust the gimbal to where I could make the largest amount of space, but there's not enough room. The little cold shoe mount on the right side of the camera, as well as the microphone, kind of gets in the way. Unfortunately, no, you can't use the media mod on there, which is kind of a bummer. Okay, so you're probably thinking to yourself, you've got the GoPro Hero 9, which has some of the best image stabilization out there. What are you using it on a gimbal for? Well, I honestly believe that there are 4 reasons why using a gimbal with an action camera can be beneficial. Number 1, so no matter what type of image stabilization you're utilizing, whether it's optical in your lens, in-body image stabilization in your camera, or digital stabilization like GoPro Hero 9's Hyper Smooth stabilization, nothing can compete with a 3-axis motorized gimbal. Just imagine how much movement is going on while you're recording. No amount of stabilization is going to compensate for that except for a motorized gimbal. Even using your image stabilization along with your gimbal can actually improve the smoothness of your shots. Number 2. So if you use digital image stabilization, like the hypersmooth stabilization in the GoPro, it actually crops on your image. GoPro actually tells you in the menu system when you switch from no stabilization to hypersmooth stabilization that it's cropping in on your image. It crops in about 10%. Now, if you go a step further and go to boost, it's actually cropping in quite a bit. Now, your image is actually really, really smooth, but you're losing out on a lot of the frame that you originally were recording at. So if you want to be able to shoot smooth footage without having your image cropped, you're gonna have to use a stabilizer or a gimbal. Number 3. So we all know that GoPros are really terrible in low light. I actually have to shoot in a special setting just to get the best image quality out of the GoPro. I tend to shoot in 4K, 24 frames per second. ISO is 100 to 800. Exposure value compensation is boosted up to 2, and I also deactivate hypersmooth stabilization. Have you ever been shooting in low light with hypersmooth stabilization? Your footage looks all jello-y and jiggly and weird. It looks awful. So to combat that, I actually deactivate hypersmooth stabilization altogether and just live with the shaky footage. Now, sure, the footage is kind of shaky just because there's no stabilization, but the image quality is still there. It still looks really good. Now, technically, I could shoot in that same low light setting that I use and shoot with the Inkee Falcon Gimbal and get some nice stable shots, even in low light. Number 4. Sometimes there's just really specific and precise movements you have to accomplish while filming. Sure, having a GoPro in your hand is gonna be fine. Sure, the stabilization is gonna be great, but sometimes there's just these really specific movements you want to achieve, and sometimes hand-holding the GoPro or having it on a selfie stick just doesn't cut it. The precise movements of a gimbal with a joystick, allowing you to control the up and down, left and right axes, is pretty amazing. Having something like Inception mode in the gimbal features is actually really, really awesome. And also being able to shoot a crane shot with your camera from a low angle up to a high angle with it staying perfectly straight the whole time is not something you can achieve using a selfie stick, because it will actually rotate your camera like this. So I think having a gimbal to achieve those really specific and precise movements is a big, big help. So there you go. Those are my 4 reasons why I think shooting with a gimbal along with an action camera can actually be beneficial. All right, so you're probably wondering how good is the stabilization on the Inkee Falcon Gimbal. So let's take it outside and see how it performs. The first will be the GoPro Hero 9 on its own with no stabilization. Second will be the GoPro Hero 9 with hypersmooth stabilization on. Third will be the GoPro Hero 9 on the Inkee Falcon Gimbal with no hypersmooth. And then fourth will be the GoPro Hero 9 on the Inkee Falcon Gimbal. And just for fun, we'll turn on the hypersmooth stabilization. So there is a way to connect your GoPro Hero 9 to the Inkee Falcon Gimbal, and you can actually take photos, shoot videos, and start a time lapse all from these buttons here. Pretty cool, and I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. Okay, so real quick, I wanted to show you how to connect your GoPro to the Inkee Falcon Gimbal. So first, I would turn on my GoPro, and then I'm gonna power on the gimbal. Swipe down on your screen here, go over to the connections settings, and turn your wireless connections on. You're gonna connect to the GoPro app. Now I know it seems kind of weird, but the Inkee Falcon Gimbal somehow utilizes the wireless connection to the GoPro app and connects to the camera for some reason. I'm not sure how, but it works. You're gonna click on GoPro app. Now you're gonna hit the power button 8 times. That'll enter the gimbal into sync mode. You'll see the green light just popped on. So now it will be communicating with the camera, and now it's connected. We have the 3 buttons here on the side of the gimbal. One is the photo or the shutter button. One is the video or record button. And then the other is the time-lapse button. So if we go and press the photo button, it just took a photo. If we hit the video button, it automatically starts recording a video. And then you hit the record button again to stop. If you hit the time-lapse button, the GoPro is already starting to take a time lapse. And to stop it, you just hit that again. I love the fact that you're able to actually control the GoPro from these 3 buttons here. That's really, really awesome. All right, so what do I think about the Inkee Falcon Gimbal? And I have to say, I really like this gimbal. I did not expect to really like a gimbal made for the GoPro Hero 9 because as we've been saying this entire video, the stabilization on the GoPro Hero 9 is amazing. It's really, really good. But like we talked about earlier, using a gimbal along with an action camera can actually be beneficial. So if this is within your budget and it only retails for about $119, I would say definitely pick it up. And if you're interested in picking up the Inkee Falcon Gimbal that we've been talking about today, I'm gonna go ahead and link it in the description down below, as well as in the comments. The actual stabilization of the gimbal itself is really good. I was actually not expecting it to be that good. I have to be real here for a second. So GoPro had the GoPro Karma grip, which was a very, very good gimbal. It worked for the Hero 5, the Hero 6, and the Hero 7. Now, ever since they changed the form factor of their cameras, like the Hero 8 and the Hero 9 going to larger bodies, they lost that market of gimbals. And I guess maybe they felt like, yeah, gimbals are dead. I guess that was kind of the whole concept, is like, this is a gimbal killer. Digital image stabilization, hyper smooth stabilization, it's a gimbal killer. But like we discussed, there are times where a gimbal is very, very important. And now with these larger camera bodies, you can't utilize the GoPro Karma grip. So I think the Inkee Falcon action camera gimbal really comes out at a very opportune time because we don't have a gimbal for this camera or the GoPro Hero 8. So the fact that it works on the Hero 9, awesome. I like the fact that it's basically pocketable. You saw the footage of me being able to take the GoPro Hero 9 and the gimbal and stick it into my pants pocket. That's insane. The battery is amazing. It lasts for approximately 9 hours. I love the plethora of different modes that you have to choose from. I love the Inception mode. That is one of the coolest things you can do on a gimbal. That is a feature that you only find on the more expensive gimbals. The fact that you have it on the Inkee Falcon Gimbal is pretty awesome. I really like the overall build quality of the gimbal. The arms are made of aluminum, as well as the motor mounts. The handle itself, or the grip part, is plastic, but it doesn't feel like a cheap plastic. It feels pretty premium. All the buttons click, they don't get stuck. The joystick is smooth. The trigger button's smooth, nothing feels cheap here. Now, the only concern I have about the build quality is that I don't believe this is like splash proof that you'll find on some other gimbals. Now, with the GoPro being an action camera and being fully waterproof, you would hope that having a gimbal for an action camera would be the same level of resiliency. Unfortunately, that is not true. The Inkee manual for the Falcon actually tells you not to get this thing wet. I can see that that would be a big concern with the USB-C port being wide open. There's no type of rubber gasket sealing it. So I would assume that all these other buttons and the joystick and the trigger probably are not weather sealed. So I would just say, be careful. Aside from that, I don't have any other issues with the build quality. The only thing I wish was that they could add some of those lock mechanisms. You could lock it in and latch it down, and then they all stay. Because just carrying this around, throwing it in a backpack, it does move around, especially if you have your camera on it. Sometimes it can smack into one of the arms or the actual body of the gimbal. It would be nice to have something similar to that on this. And another thing would be, I wish we could mount the GoPro Hero 9 with the media mod on here. There's just not enough room on the gimbal to accommodate the larger size of the media mod. Maybe in a future iteration of the Inkee Falcon 2, gimbal. Maybe Inkee will make improvements to accommodate a larger size. So, and I kind of wish that the stabilization of the gimbal was slightly better. Now, it's actually really good, but it's not the best, but it would be nice if the motors were a little bit stronger to provide more stabilization. All right, guys, so that was my review on the Inkee Falcon Gimbal. I want to say thank you to Inkee for sending this out to me and allowing me to test it out and review it. Overall, I'm really happy with the Inkee Falcon Gimbal. I will definitely be utilizing it more in my videos. I have to say one thing that really stood out to me while using this gimbal is it really opened up my mind in trying to get more creative shots. Shooting that opening sequence, that was some of the most fun I've had shooting B-roll with a GoPro ever. Just creating new ways to get footage, finding new ways to move the camera, take it through crazy small areas, thinking about how I'm gonna depict this scene. It was just really fun, and I think using a gimbal really opens up that creativity when you're shooting. Utilizing this really got my creativity going, and that is something that I love. So I definitely look forward to shooting more with the Inkee Falcon Gimbal. All right, so those are my thoughts on the Inkee Falcon Gimbal. Hopefully I was able to offer you enough information to make that decision on if the gimbal is right for you or not. I am definitely gonna continue to use it. I am super happy with it. So that is gonna do it for today's video, guys. I hope you found it helpful and enjoyable. If you did, please leave it a like. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, please think about subscribing. That is gonna do it for today's video, guys. I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.